Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren Fix and Karl Brauer. Each week we deliver the latest breaking news, vehicle reviews, and inside look at what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up, it's time to hit the road with The Drive.
Welcome back to The Drive with your automotive experts, Lauren Fix, myself, and Karl Brauer. And today we're going to be talking about some pretty interesting information. A lot of changes going on in the automotive industry. And Karl, how you doing?
I'm doing great and looking forward to another show. This is really our first post Allen show. You know, he's the backseat driver. I think he's back there sleeping right now. We can't disturb him, but we'll carry on and we will have him back on the show on a regular basis because he's too much fun on air to not have on the show on a regular basis. But instead of having Alan on the show, the two of us are joined for this show by a colleague and longtime friend that we've known for, well, some would argue too long, probably him. He's like, God, these guys. But his name is Michael Harley, and he's got a long history in the automotive industry like you and I do, Lauren. And he's been willing to take some time out of his schedule and join us today and kind of lend us some of his expertise. So please, Michael, introduce yourself and maybe a little bit of background on you.
First of all, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here and especially to talk to you guys. We talk a lot on and off the air, so obviously got a lot to say. But if you read my official bio, I think it says something like I'm an automotive industry expert. And what that basically means is I've been in the industry for a while. I've held key roles at, Kelley Blue Book, where I worked with Karl, JD Power and Associates, Autoblog, AutoWeb, Auto Trader, a lot of auto stuff, Car Expert, and going back to even Auto Bytel. I've been quoted by all the major publications, including LA Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and of course, I've been on all the big national television shows. And like both of you, I've been an Actoid juror and a World Car Awards juror. So, but the most importantly, I'd like to say is I'm a car guy. I really, really like driving. I like the emotional aspects of driving. I drive for fun. I rent on my own cars. I like to learn everything about the car that I drive. And, I find automotive and mechanical items an essential part of my life. So
I'm with you. Now, you're doing some new things now these days. So I've known you from the auto industry like forever. And when I purchased my 911, you were my go-to guy because you were smart to tell me, don't get those bucket seats. Because you said it was like sitting on a park bench.
Correct. Yeah. I actually I started automotive software company with a couple guys about a year and a half ago. It's called Marble Labs. And we are launching a high performance vehicle driving simulation, a consumer version, which will come out in the next 60 to 90 days. You'll hear a lot more about it.
Yeah. You are a man of the world when it comes to cars. You're like us. If it's someplace we can go do something, drive something, it's like, yes, we are there. So
yeah, tell us quick history. Like, Lauren mentioned the Porsche thing. You're extremely car savvy in general, but Porsche specifically, you've got a bit of a history with. But I happen to know also there's some Infiniti and BMW back there too. So give us just at least a high level history of the Michael Harley past and present fleets and what drove those purchases.
That's funny. One of my very first cars was the 1979 Audi 5000. And that was my dad's hand-me-down. It had an inline 5-cylinder engine, I think 101 horsepower at best, naturally aspirated front-wheel drive. And it was just, it was only good for maybe 50,000 miles and it started to fall apart. I followed that up with a couple GTIs. Then I went to a Civic Si, all manual gearboxes, because I was a little driving enthusiast. That was followed by the Integra GSR. And then I switched over to BMWs. I did a whole bunch of 3 Series in a row. I did 328s, 330s, 335s. And then, jumped in and bought a Porsche 930 because I was tracking the BMWs. And my wife says, get a dedicated track car. And back then, you're going to laugh, I bought a 930 for $22,000. And
wow. Now you can get a zero on the backside.
I sold it for about $100,000, but it was my first try at Porsche, and I sort of jumped in with both feet and both arms apparently. And now I've got a 2018 Porsche 911 Carrera rear-wheel drive manual gearbox, and then I went to the dark side and bought a TRX with a Hellcat engine. It's a Ram 1500 pickup truck. So I've sort of got the opposite ends of the bookmark. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
awesome.
I always say that in my garage, I've got the 2012 911 Turbo S, and then I've got the 2023 Dodge Demon 170. And so one of those cars is good for going in a straight line with way more horsepower than it should have. And the other one's good. I've got what I consider to be one of the peak sports cars, and what I undeniably consider to be the peak muscle car. If muscle cars are about being loud and brash and going super fast, but not necessarily around corners, then the Demon 170, I think, classifies as the ultimate muscle car, at least in my totally biased opinion. But well, very
I've got
interesting.
bookends as well. I mean, it's funny. I have a Porsche Cayenne diesel from 2016, and I love it because it gets 38 miles to the gallon or 800 miles on a tank. It's a whole fun thing. I put a pedal commander on it. It's got serious power when you put the torque where you want it. And then on the other end, I do have other cars, but if you go to the polar opposite, I have Mustangs. So it's like, one's performance, one's for long distance driving, and of course I've got toys in between for GT, which Karl, you've owned a couple of those as well. And I think it's just cars. It doesn't make a difference as long as if it's got four wheels, preferably manual, I'm in.
Lauren, that is a very interesting, because most people either choose to go after the muscle car side of things, or they go after the European sports cars, and you do a really nice job of blending it all. And but it's good because so many people are fixing. I have friends that are Jeep people, and they would never dare experience a Tacoma off-road because they're so fixated on Jeep. And I said, once in a while, you got to try a Land Rover, you got to try an Ineos Grenadier, you got to try something different. But the nice thing is, Lauren, you have opened your eyes and you enjoy a little of everything, which is nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got a real mix. I've got a lot of cars, and you never know what my husband might be bringing home. The other day, he came home with a 67 Mustang convertible. I'm like, oh, what are we going to do with this? He goes, oh, I'm going to fix it up. And he's taking it to Hershey to show it to get its senior. So I never know what he's doing. That's how I met my husband at a cruise night. I pulled up in an 85 Mustang. He pulled up in a 65 Shelby, and we started talking. And I thought, maybe I'll date this guy. It was
love at first. It was love at first car meet.
Or first gear.
Yes. All right. Well, this has been a great opening discussion with you, Mr. Harley, but we're going to be back for more on the other side of the drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to the drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment is brought to you by IC Cars. Shopping for a car can be really overwhelming. Make sure to check out IC Cars to get all your data before you make a buying decision. Okay, so now we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics that we've had a great time over the years beating them up, which is Tesla. But it's funny. I think the demise, and we have a mutual friend, Anton Wallman, who's always trashing Tesla, but I don't think they're going to go out of business. I mean, I've been saying that in the past too. I'm surprised they're still in business, but he's so smart. Elon Musk is so smart that after this launch of this Tesla Model 2, that's basically stripped down model and the price is lower, although they did have the ugly Cybertruck, I think we might see some changes over there. What do you think about that, Mike?
Oh, we're hearing rumors that recently they have announced, actually we're going to hear a lot in the next coming days, of a lower cost Model Y, some lower cost models, just to make up for the fact that the $7,500, tax rebates are gone on EVs. And we're seeing a lot of EV makers right now lowering their prices. We've got vehicles with reduced content, and that's exactly the avenue that Elon is promising to take. So he's going to come out with a car, a little less features, less attractive wheels, no glass moonroof or anything like that. But the question is, is it really going to change things? Are Elon's buyers cost conscious? You're not buying that. It's not the bargain sale. And so it'll be interesting to see if it really affects, I don't think people are buying Teslas based on sticker price.
No, I think he's like the Pied Piper. Karl, what are your thoughts on this new Tesla and the changes in the future? You got robo-taxis and robots, and I don't want a robot. So,
well, Elon clearly knows he's got to pivot. He knows that he cannot expect his sales to do what they did do for several years, which was grow geometrically like every year. He's hit peak Tesla sales for vehicles, EV vehicles, which basically most of the industry has, by the way, too. We've lost the incentive, and my prediction is we're going to settle in maybe at half the new EV market share, down from 8% to around 4% for 2026 and beyond. But Elon never stands still, as we know, whether he's landing rockets that are reusable or he's inventing humanoid robots that can supposedly serve you dinner. He's trying to come up with his next big thing. And a lot of people feel like, and he's kind of saying that his next big thing is self-driving cars. But I'm a little worried on that because first, I'm not sure his specific choice of design without LiDAR and some of the other things really is as smart as it should have been to make self-driving tech. But more importantly, even with AI and everyone's saying, oh, AI is going to solve all our problems. Well, maybe, but I still think we're years, not quarters away from self-driving technology. And if Elon can get there and gets there before everyone else, that's great. But if people are buying Tesla stock, in late 25 because they think in mid 26 he'll have the first self-driving fleet that everyone's using, they're kidding themselves. Okay, nobody's going to have a self-driving fleet. They'll have little pockets of self-driving cars geo-fenced into specific areas, limited to 50 miles an hour, and not making enough money off of that business case to even pay for that effort, let alone make the larger companies, whether it's Waymo or Zoox or whatever, or Tesla, any kind of profit. So we'll see him pivot. And in the meantime, he's going to try to have lower cost EVs in a world that doesn't have an EV incentive and seems to have peaked, at least here in the US, for EV demand.
Okay, quick yes or no. Would you have a Tesla robot in your home doing your cleaning and cooking for you, Mike?
No.
Carl?
No, I've seen iRobot.
I agree. No.
I would have one mowing my lawn or sweeping my driveway, but in the house, not so much. Let's start outside.
Yeah, really. All right, let's stay right with us. We're going to take a break and pay the bills, and we'll be right back.
We are back on the drive with Lauren and Karl, and we also have our special guest today, Michael Harley. And this segment is brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars, which sounds familiar. That's my YouTube channel where I am producing multiple videos a week on new cars and telling you everything about them that you need to know before you make a purchase. So let's get into our next topic, Lauren. What are we looking at this segment now?
We're going to talk about the 2026 Honda Passport. I'm really impressed with what they put together. You guys did the drive together, right?
No, actually, this one I drove on my own. Mike has helped me out on various new vehicles, like the Toyota Corolla Cross that I drove recently, and he's helping me out on the Toyota RAV4 that we're going to be producing soon. This one was just a test car that I had when I was back in Denver for another event about a month ago. And it was great to have a Passport Trail Sport, which is a capable off-road car in Denver. And there's a lot of fun places to go off-road there. So I really enjoyed having the vehicle and being able to use it. And I was hugely impressed, like you already said, Lauren. First of all, I think we need to remind everyone that SUVs are the most popular vehicle type in this country. They've completely dominated the market increasingly over the last 2 decades. And now the new move is off-road oriented SUVs. So first it was like, if you're driving an SUV, you look like you're more adventuresome. And so everyone wanted to drive one. How many of those people went on off-road adventures? Let's not talk about that. It looks like you do off-road adventures. So now they've realized, well, you can't just have an SUV. You need to have an off-road looking SUV. So the new thing, and the new thing, as you guys have probably recognized, is now, well, I want, first there's like the night shade and the night mist and all that. That's one theme. But the other theme are like these trail sport ones, or these trail hunters, as the Forerunner version is called, and all, which are supposed to look like they're ready to go completely off-road. Again, how many people are taking these vehicles off-road? We won't talk about that, but it looks like it's ready to go off-road. So the Trail Sport version of the Passport, the new Passport for 2026, has things like the off-road tires, the 18-inch wheels, the underbody skid plates. This one,
and those are real skid plates. I just did an off-road event with Passport, and the guy who developed the skid plates, who also trains the engineers, took us to this really cool school called Overland Experts. And there were just 12 of us, which I was surprised. It was sort of weird, but there were 12 of us. I think they just threw us into the deep end, and we had to learn everything, including ravines and heavy rocks. And I got stuck a few times, but they showed us all the neat things. And I was super impressed with the Honda Passport's capabilities, considering, it's not a Jeep, it's not a TRX, but considering what you're getting for the money, Honda's really stepped up their game.
Yeah, people have to understand that these new soft rotors and these appearance packages do add functionality. A skid plate is a real thing. It does protect the radiators and the underbellies and the oil pans if you do decide to go to the trail at the end of the Yosemite campground. And you do get much more rugged tires than the typical all seasons you're going to get on an SUV. But I also get a kick out of, on the Honda, they put fake hood scoops as if it's packing a supercharger. And my favorite is the faux looking beadlock wheels. And for the listeners who don't know what a beadlock wheel is, it's for hardcore off-roaders that drop their tire pressures down to like 2 to 5 psi. So they literally physically, mechanically attach the tire to the rim. And that's done with a trim ring that goes around the outside of the rim. And if you look carefully at the Honda, you can see the places where the faux bolts would have been. And nobody's running beadlocks on a Honda Passport on Moab. But it's a cool look. It looks cool.
Well, actually, recently there was some yo-yo who rented a Kia Telluride and tried to go on some heavy-duty off-road course. I forgot which one it was, like in Nevada. Yeah. And they're saying, we now have to close the trail because some moron had a rental car. Yes, just because it says off-roadable doesn't mean you should be going to Moab.
I looked at that picture, and that thing was hanging off 2 wheels on a 500-foot cliff, and I'm sure those passengers scurried out the passenger side, but they were running all-season tires appropriate for Manhattan.
Yeah.
Well, and that's an example of like the equipment, right? I mean, skid plates are cool, and taller sidewalls with aggressive knobby tires are cool, and a good all-wheel drive system, which the IVTM4 is the name of the all-wheel drive system on the Passport, and it's very advanced. But there's a couple things that you can kind of separates the men from the boys when it comes to off-road vehicles, and that is body-on-frame chassis and a low-range gear set. And the 4Runner has both of those. The Passport does not. So if you're looking for genuine, pedigree or a description of a vehicle's mechanicals that lets you know you're ready to go serious off-roading, the beadlocks, theoretically, you could buy those and add them to a vehicle.
You'd have to, nobody sells those from the factory because they won't pass Department of Transportation, the DOT regulations. Not even, I have a Bronco Raptor. Nope. It's
my
plastic
TRX
trim rim.
Even my TRX, they sold me the wheels with plastic trim. I need to go to the dealer and buy the parts.
Right. And it sandwiches the bead of the tire against the wheel. It's actually a mechanical sandwich of the rubber so it doesn't come off the rim. It's all cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a cool,
and people love it.
It's cool to be able to go off-road seriously, but how many people really do that a lot? And the flip side with the new Passport is it's larger on the outside. It's got more interior space. It's super refined. It's super comfortable. Right. Most people are going to do with that car exactly what Honda wants them to do. Drive it on pavement 80, 90, 95% of the time, enjoy the space, enjoy the refinement, enjoy the comfort. And then if they decide to go somewhat, but not terribly far off-road,
camping,
it'll totally handle it. And that's
light off-roading. Yeah.
And that's smart because that's the majority. You're not going to get a big volume of people who are going to do serious off-roading. So they did it the right way.
Yeah, Carl, I just watched your video on YouTube, and the interior space is nice. And like you said, I highly recommend that vehicle often because it's super reliable. It's kind of low tech. It doesn't have a hybrid, doesn't have a turbocharger. It's kind of old school and mechanically, but that means low maintenance and longevity.
Yeah, let's take a break right now. We are at the bottom of the hour, and we'll be right back with more Mike and Carl and myself, Lauren Fix. Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Carl. We have our special guest with us today, Michael Harley, and this segment is brought to you by Car Coach Reports. If you're looking for some automotive news and how it affects your pocketbook, check out Car Coach Reports, and all my car reviews are on Car Smarts on YouTube. All right, we have a very exciting subject this time. And we talk about this a lot off-road, off-air, the three of us off-road, sometimes that too. The auto journalism, I've had more kids say, oh, I want to be a journalist. I want to take photos and make a ton of money. Those days are gone. And Mike, I know you've got an opinion, that so does Carl. So I'll let you guys start. Mike, what's your thoughts? I bet you've got some good ones.
I'm old enough to remember the days when there were network television stars and movie stars, and all that became blurred by social media. Now, someone that shows up on NBC, I couldn't tell the difference between them and Whistling Diesel on YouTube. And the same thing's happening to automotive journalism. In the old days, if you went back to the 70s and 80s, when I was a kid growing up, worshiping, the Matt DeLorenzos, these editors in chiefs. And today, it's all blurry. There's social media influencers. There are YouTube stars that honestly don't know anything about cars. And they've sort of just overwhelmed the traditional automotive journalists. And my take on it real quick, the 60-second take is, look at where food critics have gone. In the old days, there was a food critic for the Wall Street Journal, for the New York Times, for the LA Times. Every major metropolitan newspaper, black and white, had a food critic. And now it's called Yelp. It's called Google Reviews.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. That's good.
That automotive journalism is going to be, people are just going to go either to Yelp, to Amazon.com, and they're going to read reviews. And of course, that does give some people with a platform like you two a little more authority, or someone that has access to a Bentley or a Rolls Royce or a McLaren. But for the most part, someone looking for information on the Honda Passport is just going to go to Yelp.
You can go to ChatGPT and say, and it'll take all three of our reviews, take it together and go, Carl said this, Michael said this, Lauren said this. I mean, and a lot of Gen Zers, a lot of millennials are using that before they buy a car. Where's the best price? I mean, I'm sure you see that, Carl. Your kids are of that age where they're probably using social media and AI for everything.
Yeah, it became clear to me probably like 5 to 10 years ago, at least, when like my daughter and my son were pretty much oblivious, kind of like Mike was saying about food critics and movie stars. They really didn't care about what was on like the big networks that we grew up with. They were watching YouTube. I'll never forget my daughter, the first time she freaked out about my connections to the auto industry wasn't because I told her I knew Bob Lutz or, Jim Farley or Carroll Shelby. But when I mentioned that I had worked with in the past, David Freiberger from Roadkill, she was like, David Freiberger? And she was all over the fact that he was the Roadkill guy and that she had been watching Roadkill on YouTube. That's when her dad, the car industry journalist guy, was finally cool, because I knew someone she'd been watching on YouTube. So that's 100% accurate a description, Michael. It's just that we are moving away from these like 10 to 12, maybe 15 at the most elite car people, which is what it was. There were four or five publications.
Talk to those people.
Yeah.
If the three of us went to an event, you did not sit at the table where they had dinner. You sat someplace else and went, oh, is that David E. Davis? And so I'm like, who? The kids don't know who they are anymore, but these were the people like, Brock Yates and the names that we were like, wow. And
I want to point out the downside to this is it's agnostic, it's anonymous. So now we're getting a review of a Chevy C8 Corvette by ChatGPT that's taking the masses and dumbing it down. In the old days, I like to know that Carl Brauer liked that car because I aligned with Carl. It's sort of watching Siskel and Ebert. You could watch that show, and even though Ebert didn't like it, Siskel did, and you liked the movie Siskel liked because you were like Siskel. So what's going to happen is we're going to lose the character and the personalization, because I liked the cars that Jean Lindemood liked. I was an Audi person. And so she liked a car in Automobile Magazine. You know what? I aligned with that. And ChatGPT and all these AIs, they can't do that for us.
No, there's no personalization to it. And I think Carl and we've been talking about this off air regularly about all these outlets that are going out of business. And they're just gone. I mean, I won't say all the brand, unless you want me to. Like I get something from like Jalopnik. All right, I'm throwing myself under the bus, and I'm getting the headline is, "Hey, why do you check your tire pressure?" I'm thinking that's like that was written by AI. It was definitely not written by a person. And even like Motor One, most of the time it's nothing. But when Jeff Perez, who's a great writer, he writes something, I can tell it's written by a person, and there's something to it. And there's so many outlets that are going away. And when we were kids, if you could work for Car and Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trend, that was like, oh, you work there?
Yeah.
I don't see that anymore. I'm not impressed with all of the writers there.
And don't forget, why does that tire pressure story exist, Lauren? Because some SEO traffic guy said, there's a lot of queries on checking tire pressure. That's the only reason that story even exists. And, if you're trying to like get the most engagement from the most highest search terms in a given area, well, that's great. If you're trying to give some depth and some personality and some authority to what's going on in the car industry or what's going on with a given vehicle that you've driven and that you're reviewing, none of those ChatGPT, SEO driven engagement, high search term activities or policies are going to do that for you. So it's nice to be on something like The Drive. You've got three people, three personalities right now talking from their personal experiences. It feels very anti-AI. And hopefully at some point that becomes the elite. It's like, well, I can get the AI stuff wherever I want. How do I get Lauren and Karl and Michael's opinion direct from them?
Yeah, I'll give you one.
That was what Alan did too. You know what I mean? Alan carried his opinion from his experiences, but his was different. Everyone's got a different experience, and we all have reached this pinnacle in our careers from different directions. Alan started in his salvage yard. I mean, I met him because he was working at an outlet, and I was trying to convince him to write about my dad's company at the time. I mean, it's so interesting how things have changed, and I think there's a lot more changes coming in the near future that a lot of people in our industry are about to get a slap in the face and wake up.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take another break, and we will come back after that and have our next interesting topic we're going to be discussing here on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive. This segment's brought to you by Classic Tube. If you're restoring a car or you're looking for a high-performance car that you want to make it just a little cooler and a little safer, check out Classic Tube. They have pre-bent brake, fuel, and transmission lines ready to go for hundreds of thousands of patterns.
Awesome. Well, let's talk now about news and what's breaking right now in the industry that maybe I'm a little biased on, but also quite excited about is IC Cars' longest lasting car list. Now, people need to know that IC Cars, where I'm the executive analyst, has been doing this particular data study for over 10 years. They first did it in 2014, and they look at millions in this past year, in case 174 million vehicles from this past year's analysis. And it's pretty easy to explain because you hear this term longest lasting, like, well, how are you getting longest lasting from this? All these vehicles are on the IC Cars website for sale. It's a vehicle listing site. So you can see all the new and used cars that are for sale on all these dealers across the country. That's a lot of cars. And our data team realized a long time ago, this is a lot of information. Sure, right now there's this car, it might be on for 2 days or 2 weeks, but it's got the miles, it's got the price, it's got the trim level, all this information about the car. If we start collecting that, and we know the year and the make and the model and the miles, and we see how many times this particular car or cars like it come back and what their odometer readings are before they stop coming back on the market, what do you start to get a picture of? How long the car lasted before it wasn't worth selling again because it was too worn out. So with a little bit of data science, and that's a very talented part of IC Cars, and a lot of data, which is 174 million cars this last time around, what you get is a very strong, accurate prediction on the lifespan of any given model. So with all that said, we have the 2025 IC Cars longest lasting cars list, comes out every year. And like every year, this year, it's pretty much dominated, at least in the top half, if not really most of the 25 cars, are Toyotas.
I mean, all the great brands that are out there, and we've all had cars personally that lasted a long time, but for them all, the top 10, well, the top 9 are all Toyota brands.
I was looking at the same thing. I mean, there's Toyota, Lexus, Toyota, Lexus. I mean, then Honda.
That's crazy.
Honda squeaks one in there.
Honda has great product. I mean, you look at this long list. This is really impressive. All right, Karl, you can go through the list if you want.
Yeah, so let's talk about this list because, like you guys said, it's a little myopic. You're just seeing kind of 3 brands and like the top 15, but that's what the data says. Toyota Sequoia, 39% chance of getting to 250,000 miles, and that's what this study is.
It's a lot of oil changes.
Yeah, I know, a lot of service records there, but this is the car's chance to get to 250,000 miles. And it should be noted that the average car's chance, when you take all the vehicles and average it out, is 4.8%. So the average
Really?
car has a 4.8% chance of getting to 250,000 miles, but the Toyota Sequoia has a 39.1% chance. That's over eight
That's
times as
impressive.
likely. 8 times as likely to get to 250. And then the Forerunner, 32.9% chance. That's 6.9. Call it 7 times the average.
Wow.
Then the Highlander hybrids at 31%, Tundras at 30%, Lexus IS Lexus IS is at 27.5, and then the Toyota Tacoma 25.3, the Toyota Avalon at 18.9, the Lexus GX at 18.3, the Lexus RX hybrid at 17% chance, and then the Honda Ridgeline at 14.7% chance of getting to 250,000 miles. That's still 3 times as likely as the average car. Now, that's just the top 10. There's 15 on the website if you go to iccars.com and you check out the longest lasting cars list. But
I'm surprised the hybrids are there.
Yeah, the hybrids are really
You're talking
starting
about 2 propulsions. So you've got a gas and you've got an electric component. And when you're talking 250,000 miles, you are way outside the warranty, and I would not want to be replacing those batteries. That would be super expensive.
Let's talk about the use case of the hybrids. Nearly every time I get doing an Uber or a Lyft, it's a hybrid Highlander, a hybrid Camry, or a Prius. And those guys are driving the snot out of those cars, 200, 300, 400,000 miles. And they are, we all know that if you drive your car regularly, it's going to last longer. Just like if you wake up every single day and walk 3 miles, you're going to live longer. So there is a use case when you have a hybrid and you drive the hybrid, it's going to last.
That's 100% it, Mike. And that's what my data guys say at IC Cars. That's what they're telling us. They say, look, 2 things kill a car: time and miles. Time eventually kills every car. Okay. I mean,
well, not the super old cars. I have super old cars.
You've got old Mustangs and cars that are worth restoring. So those you don't let die. There's a lot of Ferrari GTOs that are never going to die because they're too valuable. But the other 98% of the cars out there that aren't these specialized valuable cars, after a certain amount of time, the bodies are worn out, the interior's worn out, the paint's worn out. Even if the drivetrain is still working, and it's probably worn out too, it's just not worth keeping the car going. So most cars will be, so I should say all cars will eventually die from time. But what else kills a car before time? Use, wearing it out. And so it's what you said.
Maintaining it.
Michael. Yeah, well, like if you drive a car 250,000 miles in 10 years, the interior and the paint are going to be fine. But what's the drivetrain going to be like? It's going to be, you're going to be burning some oil. You're going to have the transmission might be slipping by then and all. So it's time or miles. And the more aggressively you drive the car, the more likely miles are what kill it. But also the more likely you get to 250,000 miles. So all these hybrid vehicles that are being used as Ubers because they save so much on gas, they're the cheapest way to drive an Uber. Right. They're helping pulling the hybrids up because people are driving the crap out of those cars in a relatively short time, and they're wearing them out by miles, not time, and they're getting them to 250,000 miles. And so that's why you're seeing that. And then the other thing you notice is trucks and SUVs, right? What are trucks and SUVs? They're highly useful. They do a wide range of things. Again, if I get a sports car, like a 911 that both Mike and I have, those are great cars. We're going to keep them in great shape and garage them. Yeah, Lauren's got one. And they're going to sit in the garage all the time and hardly get driven because we want to use them for specific things. But you get a 3-row SUV, a Suburban, you're going to use everything. You're going to go to soccer practice and road trips and off-roading and all that. You're going to wear it out by miles again. So that's what makes up the list.
I was just going to say, Carl, you hit the nail right on the head. You got to go check out the IC Cars website because they have other studies on that, and they have the longest lasting trucks that are going to go 250,000 miles. And at the top of that list are all the heavy duties and super duties because they're work trucks, the 3500s, the 450s, the 2500, the 350s. You don't get a 1500, which is the civilian version, until you're 10 or 11 on the list. And those are trucks that are well maintained, usually by service companies, regular oil changes, new tires, new brakes, and they just run forever. And like you said, Lauren, a few minutes ago, some of the muscle cars are around from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, but they've been completely rebuilt. And that's what we're probably finding. If you took that Ram 3500, I bet it's got all new brakes, all new rotors, 4 or 5 transmission services. And they're, it's the use case.
Right. Yeah. All right. We're going to be right back because we are going to take a break and pay the bills. Thanks so much. Stay with us. We got another segment of some interesting info. Welcome back to The Drive. we are coming into the final gear. So you want to listen to this subject. We have been talking about Porsches on and off, and Carl has a 911, Michael has a 911, and so do I. And we love our cars. But when Porsche said to us at Ren Sport Reunion, we're going to start adding in EVs, which if you're a Porsche person, you know. And by the way, it is Porsche. It is someone's last name. It is not Porsche, although sometimes we call my car the pork chop, but that's a whole other story. Or if you go to Luftgekühlt, which is a fabulous event that is put on by Patrick Long, they just did their first East Coast event. You will hear people talking about, I'm getting the last 718. I'm getting the last gasoline-powered Porsche. Now, Michael, you've got some opinion on this.
Yeah, I'm sure all three of us are in the same boat that we buy, you can buy a Porsche as a daily driver, but all three of us have as a third, fourth, fifth, sixth car in the garage. We buy it for emotional reasons. And with that, we like the engine note. We like the sound of the flat six, whether it's turbocharged or naturally aspirated, and you get a GT3 RS. And nobody really buys electric vehicles for emotional reasons. You buy those as an appliance. There is a very good use case for an electric car, but there is almost no use case for an emotional electric car for a driving enthusiast.
And that's why I think you see a lot of these companies, whether it was Dodge or now Porsche, GM, Ford, there's been a big pivot back and away from electric cars over the last 6 months because of everything you just said, Michael. Dodge, I knew when they said they were going EV, I was like, there isn't a brand out there that's going to have a bigger challenge, and I don't think they're going to clear the challenge. They're going to fail converting their existing passionate, by the way, buyer base toward EVs. It's just not going to work. Guess what? They've acknowledged that the Hemi's coming back, internal combustion's coming back, and the electric charger is sitting on
TRX.
lots, trying to move it. Yeah, the TRX is coming back. So Porsche is basically, I'm sure Porsche wouldn't want to be compared to Dodge, but on this case, they're basically the same kind of car company. They have passionate owners, passionate buyers, passionate fans, and I don't think any of them are excited by an electric Porsche. And when I was driving the 718 Boxster GTS recently,
Nice.
I kept saying in my video, I can't believe they're pushing this car away. I can't believe this is the last one. I'm so bummed. And there was part of me that was like, maybe I pull some financial levers and order one of these while I still can. Well, of course, I was supposed to get the last call Dodge Challenger. I'm pretty sure a V8 powered one, and maybe even a more powerful one, is going to come back. You were supposed to have one of the last TRXs. There's been people who have sued Dodge because they were told it was the last version of like the Durango SRT and all, and then it came back. So there are a couple lessons to be learned here. First, if you've got a brand based on passion, don't make electric cars. And second, if you're an automaker who is pivoted toward electric cars, don't do that, at least overly aggressively. And third, if you're a consumer and you've been told this is your last chance to get something going all the way back, I'm sure all three of us know about this, to the 76 Cadillac Eldorado convertible. Remember that? The last convertible, all the safety standards were going to be changing in the 70s that would make it impossible to make convertibles. And that last convertible to be sold in the US, the 76 Cadillac Eldorado, everyone ran out and bought one. I'm pretty sure there's been a few convertibles since that 1976. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've got some convertibles since 1976, one or two.
Yeah.
So don't fall victim to the last. If you think you're buying the last version of something, maybe you are, very possibly you are not.
How many people overpaid for the last 718? Didn't you say, Mike?
We've said over and over again, the people that paid for the last TRX, the last Demon, the last 718. I mean, right now, thankfully, the GT3 is still in production, but there will be a time when it has to go hybrid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't do that. When it comes to Porsche, it's about performance. And I know that electric cars have performance. It's not the same thing. When it's missing that exhaust note, that it's the one sense other than taste that you're missing. Yeah. All right. So let's get into thanking our guest, Mike Harley. Thank you for joining us. Please join us again. We'd love to have you talk, especially
you guys are
when
a lot
your
of fun.
Product comes out. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. And you've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source with the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insight in the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. And remember, you can watch this on video if you're listening to it on the radio by going to our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe. You never get to miss an episode. And of course, we love your comments. So put your comments down below. We'll love hearing from you and about future ideas and guests. Don't forget, Alan Taylor will be joining us from time to time with his unique perspective and his humor. So there's always something fresh here on The Drive. And until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.